Expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm so glad that you could tune in, whether on your radio or on your computer at caregiversolutions.info. I'm so glad you could join us. We have another great show for you today. This is the program where you, the family caregiver, when you're caregiving and you have someone that has Alzheimer's or some other related dementia, and you don't know where to go, and you don't know where to turn, and you need more help, and you need more resources, then this is the show for you. This is the program where we ask the questions and you get the answers. And we are live from Boca Raton, Florida. Before we get started with today's show, I have a couple announcements to make. I want to remind you all to sign up for the American Parkinson Walk. It's called the Optimism Walk, and it's going to be held April 17th, 2016. And this walk will take place at Town Center in Boca Raton on Glades Road. To register for the walk or to donate, go to their website, which is APDA Florida. So that's A, P as in Peter, D as in dog, A as in apple, spell out the word Florida.org. You'll get all the information that you need, and it's a great way to show your support, to raise awareness of Parkinson, and also to make a donation and to help fund some research and some services for people that are suffering and for their caregivers. Because, you know, there's lots of things that cause dementia. The most prevalent, of course, is Alzheimer's disease. But Parkinson's disease can cause dementia. There's vascular dementia. There's a whole host of different types of dementia. But it all causes memory loss. So in general, when we're talking about memory loss dementia, it can be many, many different forms of dementia. And this is what we want to reach out to people that are caregivers dealing with memory loss and dementia of their loved one. So if you have a question about something that you see or hear on this program and you want to make a comment, have a question, maybe something that you'd like to be shown on the show for instance, a certain topic that maybe you'd be interested in, just send me an email at marcia.teele@arden-courts.com. And that's Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A, .teele, T-E-E-L-E, at arden-courts.com. So this week, I did receive an email from a caregiver. She writes, "Last week, I attended the Alzheimer's Community Care Conference in West Palm Beach and found it to be very informative and fun. I was not able to attend the second day when you were scheduled to present on which path to choose in deciding between care options for a person with dementia. Is there a way for you to share that information on your show, as it would be helpful for me to understand what is ahead of me? Thank you. Sincerely, Rachel." Well, thank you, Rachel, for that email. It was a very informative conference last Thursday and Friday in West Palm Beach, and I did speak on Friday about which path to choose. So in response to your request, Rachel, Today's program will be a repeat of my presentation last week at the annual Alzheimer's conference. And I'm going to be sharing with caregivers the different options of what to look at as you go along your journey of which paths to choose when it comes to caregiving. When we return from a short commercial break, I'll share with you which path do I choose: home health, adult daycare, memory care, assisted living, or nursing home. Big choices, lots of options, and lots of pros and cons that we're going to be discussing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with that information.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare-covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice.
Welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm glad you joined us this evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about care options. The Alzheimer's Community Care Educational Conference was last week. I was very pleased to see a few of the caregivers who are listeners and watchers of this program, as well as several professionals in the care of in the healthcare industry. Very glad to see them, and they made some very good comments about the program. So I'm glad it's reaching the people that it needs to reach. We're talking about care options. What are they? How do I know where to go? How much do they cost? How do I pay for them? And how do I know when it's time to make a change? And so first, I'd like to start off with a few facts about Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease can last 2 to 20 years. The toll it takes on the family caregiver is devastating. Stress from caregiving 24/7 affects all aspects of a caregiver's life, sometimes even including death. 60% of people with Alzheimer's disease or dementia will wander at some point. Alzheimer's disease is unpredictable, and there is currently no cure for Alzheimer's disease. So those are the hard, cold facts. That's what we're dealing with. That's what caregivers are dealing with, and it's not easy. Matter of fact, it's very, very, very difficult. So our purpose tonight is to help you maybe untangle some of those things that are confusing about options. But I first want to explain what I call the stair steps to care. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, including professionals, even doctors, that really don't understand the options. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, I had a woman who's caregiver for her husband who has Alzheimer's. And she just walked in, off the street one day. She saw the sign about memory care. And she walked in, she says, I need to talk to somebody. And she sat down and she started crying. And I said, please tell me, what's wrong? And she had just come from the primary care physician's office telling the doctor how overwhelmed she was, how stressed out she was. And of course, with her husband having Alzheimer's, all the difficult behaviors that she was dealing with. Her husband was actually with her. And he was probably in his 80s, I would say, probably early 80s. And he walked in with her, and we had a little conversation, and he could communicate, and he was a very lovely man. But the lady was crying. I said, please share with me, what is wrong? What's causing you to cry? And she said that the primary caregiver told her, your husband needs a nursing home. Well, that's the last thing that we need to hear. We don't want to hear it. And it was very upsetting news to her. And so the good news was I was able to share with her, no, your husband does not need a nursing home. He has memory loss, but it doesn't automatically mean that he needs a nursing home. And so I shared with her all the different options. And there are options. There is hope out there that you don't have to automatically go to a nursing home and place your loved one there unless it's absolutely necessary. So that's what we're going to be talking to you today about, are the options. So the stair steps to care. So like stair steps in a house, we start here on the first step, and that would be home, all right? And home, when someone's at home and they have dementia, and maybe they can't stay at home anymore. Maybe they don't have a caregiver. Maybe the caregiver is overwhelmed. Lots of different reasons why a person should not or could not stay at home anymore when they have dementia. They're not getting enough stimulation or socialization. So the next step would be perhaps going into an independent living. Now, an independent living is not for someone with dementia. So the stair steps to care, the stair steps to different living options would go home, independent living. That's for someone who does not have dementia. That's for someone who doesn't want to take care of a home anymore, a private residence. Maybe they don't want to cut the grass. Maybe they don't want to actually do a lot of housekeeping, and they want to just enjoy their life. So they go to an independent living, which is almost like being at home. The next level up is assisted living. Assisted living has two levels. The first one is what I call regular assisted living. This is for someone that goes from independent living to regular assisted living because maybe they need a little more assistance than what they would be getting in independent living. This would include someone to remind them to take their medications. This would include someone to maybe help them in and out of the shower safely. This would include someone to check on them, make sure that they didn't fall in the middle of the night and couldn't get out of bed or couldn't get off the floor the next morning. So there is assistance. There's assistance with more things, but yet the person's able to go and do and, create an environment for themselves where they can flourish because they can. The next level is memory care assisted living. Memory care assisted living is specialized. It's been around about 20 years or so, and this is a specialized memory care assisted living where people with dementia go because it lends a higher level of care. This level of care includes things like making sure the person is safe, making sure they have help with everything they need help with, including bathing, dressing, toileting, eating, lots of things. There's a lot more going on in memory care assisted living because a person with memory loss can't really navigate too well in a regular assisted living and sometimes not at all. And what will happen is that they'll forget where to go for their meals. They'll forget how to get downstairs, how to maneuver an elevator, for instance, forget which floor they live on, forget how to get to activities. Or maybe they'll start withdrawing and stay in the regular assisted living in their little apartment because they don't want to put themselves in a situation where they might not know the answer to something. And so rather than put themselves out there to be embarrassed, they're going to hibernate and withdraw and stay in their little apartment in the regular assisted living, and they're going to get depressed, and it's not good at all for them. So a lot of people in regular assisted living, do they have some memory loss? Yes, it's probably mild cognitive impairment, which is the precursor to dementia. And they'll be okay for a while, but at some point, the next move is memory care assisted living. Now, from there, the last place someone would go for living would be skilled nursing facility or a nursing home. They call it SNF for short in the healthcare world, SNF, skilled nursing facility or nursing home. And as these different levels increase, as the stair steps go up, so does the cost. And so you can see coming from home to independent, to regular assisted, to memory care assisted, to nursing home, the cost increase. And so you want to be aware of that, because what we're going to be talking about are the different care options, what it costs, and when to know to go to each one of those. So that is the basis that we're going to be talking about today. Now, the first option, of course, is staying at home without help. And I'm talking about staying at home without help when you're a caregiver caring for someone with dementia. I can't think of any pro, and we're going to be talking about pros and cons of each option. I can't think of any pro except you're going to save some money. So if you don't have anyone coming in to help you, and you're going to tough it out and be a martyr and do it all on your own for the long haul, yes, you'll save some money. But what are the consequences of doing that? What are the cons? There are many cons. The caregiver will become chronically stressed and overwhelmed. Can't do it alone. Very, very difficult. In the beginning, yeah, maybe things aren't so bad. But toward the end, toward the middle to the end, it's really, really tough, and you will suffer from that. Your health suffers. You're not getting enough sleep, or you're not getting the proper sleep. In other words, you're going to bed, and perhaps you're sleeping, but you might have one eye open or one ear open, listening for your loved one. Are they getting up at night? Are they, rummaging around in the drawers? What are they getting into? Are they trying to get outside? So your health is suffering because not only the stress, but the lack of sleep. Your social life as a caregiver will suffer too. You're too tired to go out with your friends. You're too stressed to engage. You just can't manage, and you just start withdrawing from your social engagements. That's not a good thing. There's also the possibility of an abusive situation, and I see this. I really see it much too often. And this can be an abusive situation from either side. It can be the caregiver abusing the person with dementia, not intentionally, but it's as a result of the stress, the frustration, the anger, everything that goes into it. They just are at wit's end, and they may lash out at that person. Or the abuse might come from the patient, from the person with dementia toward the caregiver. And this is because they don't understand sometimes what they're doing. They may strike out and not even remember that they did it. And if you tell them that they did it, they're usually pretty sorry that they did it, and they would never intentionally hurt you. But it's also because of their frustration, their confusion. They don't know what's going on. Their brain is not working right, and anything can happen because, remember, we said Alzheimer's disease is unpredictable, not only with how it progresses, but the behaviors that come with it. Also, if you stay at home, you will have more difficulty managing negative and challenging behaviors alone. These are things like when someone wants to get out the door and, they're bigger and stronger than you are and they're pushing you aside. You don't have backup. There's nobody there to back you up. There's nobody there that if you got sick, if you failed, if you fell down, if you were not able to do your caregiving task, who's your backup? Who's going to be there for you? So those are the cons. And as you can see, obviously more cons than pros with staying at home without help when you're a caregiver for someone with dementia. Now, the second option is staying home with help. Now, this is usually where most people start, and it's a good place to start. This is when you call a home health company and you have someone coming into your home, and they're helping you take care of that person. So what are the pros to that? There are a few pros. The pros is that it can be flexible to your schedule. You pick the times that you need. You pick the days that you need. There's lots of options and there's no one answer. It depends on what you need and your schedule. There's no contract for specific times. That's what makes it so flexible. There is a contract for the financial piece of it that you agree to pay so much for that time. And your flexibility can even include nights and weekends. So sometimes caregivers, whether you're a spouse or maybe you're an adult child, and maybe you work, and maybe you need some care in the home for your parent, but you can handle it at night and you can handle it on weekends. But during the day when you're at work, maybe that's when you need to get the help into the home. The help in the home provides respite to the primary caregiver to do the necessary chores. So if you're a spouse and you're home and you have someone that can come into the home, it lets you get out and do your chores. You can go to the doctor's office for your own self. Yes, you take your loved one to the doctor, but what about yourself? Are you making sure that you're being taken care of? Are you making sure that you get what you need? So this is respite time. Respite is a time for you to get what you need and do what you need to do. So you'll be able to go shopping. You can go to the grocery store. You can go to the beauty shop and take some time for yourself. And it's very, very important to do that as a caregiver, to take time for yourself. The respite time can also include social time for you. Now, we talked about social time for caregivers. Don't cut that out of your life. You want to continue to maintain those relationships and those activities that you did before you became a caregiver. So having respite, having home health come into your home lets you get out. You can go play cards with your friends. You can play tennis. You can go see a movie with a friend. This is very, very important to not to not take advantage of this, because caregiving is difficult and you need that respite time. Doesn't have to be all the time. Please don't feel guilty about it, but you definitely need to schedule it into your schedule. Home health, help in the home, also provides help with the heavy lifting of care. This would be something like maybe incontinence care or showering. Maybe if you're an adult child, you kind of feel funny helping your mom, in and out of the shower and helping her to wash. Or maybe if you're a spouse and you've drawn the line at incontinence care and, I'll do everything for my husband except when it comes to the toileting part, when it comes to changing his Depends, or it gets to be really ugly and nasty and I just can't stomach it, well, then you need to get some help. Or you don't have to prepare the loved one to be transported. Now, this is important because someone coming into your home, they're coming to you. You don't have to get your loved one up, get them ready for the day, prepare them to go off to another location for care. So this is good, home health in the home. It actually allows the spouse or adult child to maintain their roles versus the role of a caregiver. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're a spouse and you're also the caregiver, these roles are meshed together and they can be very confusing, not only for you because you're not sure, am I acting now the way I'm behaving, what care I'm giving? Am I in the role of a caregiver or am I in the role of a spouse, or is it both? If you're an adult child, are you in the role of the adult child or the caregiver? So by having help for your loved one with dementia, you can take on the role that you need to, and it's really better for both of you because you can be still the wife, play the wife role, and let someone do the caregiving. It also allows the family caregiver, you, to have a mental break. Everybody needs a mental break. Someone to just entertain, someone to play cards with your loved one. So you can just go in the bedroom, close the door, and have a mental break. Someone to keep your loved ones safe. Keep eyes on them all the time. It's like having a little toddler, 2 years old, running around the house, getting into everything. You cannot take your eyes off that toddler because they're going to get themselves into trouble. Well, the same is true for some people with Alzheimer's or dementia. You can't take your eyes off them, especially if they're not in a fail-proof or safe environment. You have to watch them all the time because unfortunately they're very vulnerable and they don't understand how things can hurt them. So having someone help you gives you that second pair of eyes. And it also allows you, the caregiver, to take time for yourself. Read a book, take a nap, take a shower. That is like heaven to some people, and it's very important to do that. So what are the cons? There are cons from what caregivers tell me about having home health or having someone to come into their home, and this is what they say. First thing is they say there's a loss of privacy. That's true. You have a stranger, a virtual stranger that comes into your home, and you're got your routine, and now you have a stranger and they're really there in your face most of the time because they want to be visible to let you know that they're caring for that loved one. And you don't have privacy maybe to do things you normally do. Maybe you don't have privacy on the telephone because they're listening. So just having that sense of privacy is very important to some people, and they don't want someone in their home. Some caregivers actually have a tendency to oversee two people. What I mean by that is if you have your loved one and you have someone in the home to care for them, and you're paying for this and it's not inexpensive, you want to be sure that you're getting your money's worth. And so what happens is you're overseeing. Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are they doing it the way I would do it? Are they taking care of this? Or are they sitting, watching TV, doing nothing? They're not engaging my loved one. Maybe they're on the telephone talking and they're not really doing what you think they should be doing. So now instead of taking care of one person, you're taking care of two people. And of course, your stress level is just going to go up. Dealing with the no-shows. If you have someone that supposed to be there at a certain time, certain days, what happens when their car breaks down? What happens when they get sick? What happens when they call and tell you they can't come? Or worse, they don't even call you and you're expecting them. So these are no-shows. It's a little easier if you're dealing with a company. They can send somebody else. But if it's not through a company, then you have to accept the possibility that there's going to be a no-show at some point. And that might be exactly when you need it the most. So that's going to be very frustrating for you. Also, the possible lack of quality stimulation and socialization with peers. So when you have someone coming into your home, you want to be sure if you do have someone that they're going to actually be there to stimulate your loved one and not just sit and watch them. It's certainly not supposed to be babysitting. You want them to be more engaging with your loved one. And if possible, they should try to get your loved one to socialize with peers. Take them to the clubhouse. Take them down by the pool. Let them see their neighbors and friends that have known for a long time and give them that feeling of, I still belong. The patient can fire the caregivers. Now, this is very, very common. The patient, if you have someone coming into the home, and let's say you're an adult child, for instance, and maybe you live up north, and you say, gee, mom or dad, they need someone in the home because I'm really not feeling good about them being by themselves. They need someone to come in and maybe cook some meals and make sure they're safe. And so you would make those arrangements with a home health company. And that person shows up at the door at the appointed time. And what happens? Mom or dad goes to the door. Who are you? What do you want? No, you can't come in. Go away. Or if they do come in the house and your parent lets them come in, it might not be too long before your parent might feel that this is not for me. I feel like I'm being babysat. I don't need someone to babysit me. I don't need you. Why don't you just go? And they'll kick them out. They'll fire them, kick them out. And they have every right to do that because they are home in their own home and they have that right. So that's a big problem with firing the caregiver because people don't want to feel like they're being babysat, and that's how they feel. There's a security issue. Unvetted caregivers. In other words, maybe somebody that you heard a friend of a friend had a friend who does caregiving or knows someone who does caregiving, and maybe you hired that person. probably going to be unvetted, meaning that they don't have background checks like you would if you went through a company. They don't have fingerprinting. They don't have the background checks to see if they're a felon. Lots of things, drug abuse, lots of things going on. So you can have that security issue with possible stealing from your loved one or stealing things out of your home or even an abuse situation. The patient still looks to the primary caregiver in the home for attention. This is another con. So if you do have someone that comes in and you're the spouse and you have another person coming in to help you, a lot of times what happens is your loved one still is going to look for you. You're the primary caregiver. You're the one with the big bullseye on your chest. You have the target. So you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just because there's somebody there in the home that's supposed to be helping you, your loved one may be just targeting you, and they don't want anyone else to touch them. They don't want anybody else to do for them. They only want you. So that's another con. It could happen. Exit seeking in the home. People wonder. We had a fact, 60% of people with dementia will wander at some point in their lives, meaning that they're going to wander out the door. And so when you have a caregiver in the home, it's harder to control that when they want to leave. Perhaps the home isn't set up for outside wandering. They want to go, and it's very difficult to keep them inside because they feel confined and they feel like they're penned up and they have this urgent need to get away and get outside. So it makes it very difficult. And lastly, multiple caregivers can cause confusion. So if you have a company and maybe you're not having a consistent schedule, maybe it's not always, Monday through Friday all day long, or it's not always Tuesdays and Thursdays for half a day. If you have a schedule that is different days, different times, you may not always get that same caregiver, and you're going to be getting different caregivers, which is very confusing to your loved one with dementia. They don't like that. It's a new person. They don't like change. It causes them to have more anxiety, and they'll end up having a disconnect, even from the original caregiver that was there. That's not, continuity is not there, and they don't like that. So when we come back, we have lots more options and lots more pros and cons. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay with us.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare-covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Community. Arden Courts is a leader in the care of people with dementia, Alzheimer's, and they also care about the caregiver. And so if you are a caregiver and you would like to learn more about caregiving and have this wonderful book in your library, it's called The 36-Hour Day. This is a family guide to caregiving for people with Alzheimer's, dementia, and memory loss. And it's a wonderful book. and it's free for you, the caregiver, just for the asking from Arden Courts. All you have to do is call them on their toll-free number, which is 888-478-2410, and tell them that you heard about this offer on the Caregiver Solutions Info program, and they'll get your name and address and be happy to mail this book to you. It is invaluable. Lots and lots of great tips, explains all kinds of information that caregivers need along their journey. So we're talking today about pros and cons of different caregiving options. And before we leave the home health sector, I wanted to actually add a little footnote to that. There are two kinds of care that you can have in your home from companies. One is basically a companion, which is considered no hands-on, all right? So this care is limited. It's limited and includes things like entertaining, playing cards, taking them for a walk, maybe giving them transportation to a doctor's office, doing a little bit of light housekeeping, making their lunch for them. That's what a companion would do, no hands-on, as opposed to a home health aide, okay, could be a CNA. These people are caregivers that can do more. They can do all the things that a companion can do, but including things like bathing, personal hygiene care, dressing, assisting with medications. So if you're looking to get someone in your home, make sure that you know what you're getting. Make sure you know what to ask for or have it explained to you what this person can do for you, and make sure that your needs are being matched up with what you're getting. Okay, just wanted to mention that. A lot of people don't know. So now we're going to talk about option 3. Option 3 is adult daycare centers. Now, there's different daycare centers all across the county. Every state has them, maybe not as many as we would hope. I think they're growing. But adult daycare centers for people with dementia is a place where your loved one can go during the day, maybe half a day or a full day, and be engaged with activities with people that are there to keep them safe, to have a meal, including lunch a lot of times, and give them activities with their peers. So they're going to be in a social situation. So it really is a benefit for someone to be engaged and be with their peers. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons of adult daycare. So what are the pros? First of all, like I said, you can schedule whatever's good for you or your loved one. You can do full days, half days, 1 day a week, 5 days a week. They're licensed. They have trained staff, usually with nursing care available if needed. There's more social opportunities for your loved one because they're with their peers. And because they're with their peers, in other words, other people that have been diagnosed with dementia, they're going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel like they're part of the gang. They do stimulating activities, so they have musical programs and art programs. This is an important part, and I love this one because I see it all the time. By having your loved one go to an adult daycare center, it begins the separation process from the primary caregiver, which will help in the transitioning eventually into a memory care assisted living. And why is that? Well, first of all, when someone goes to adult day center, they're used to being out of the house. They're not with their primary caregiver anymore. They have other caregivers. And this is a good way to start that process of that separation. I find that people that have dementia that come from home straight into a memory care assisted living seem to have a little harder time of transitioning than do people that have been attending an adult daycare center for some time. The adult daycare center is very similar to a memory care assisted living in the fact that the resident or the patient is going to be with their peers, doing activities, and being away from that caregiver. So it's something to think about for the future. Also, adult daycare centers provide a sense of independence and accomplishment. When your loved one is away from you, it's amazing how sometimes that can empower them and they feel like, yes, I can do this. A lot of times when you're at home, no, don't do this, don't do that. You can't do that. Stop it. I said no. Well, when you go into another type of environment with professionals that understand dementia, and we're talking about dementia-specific daycare centers, then they're going to be provided that sense of self-esteem, self-worth, a little bit more independence, that a boy, they got the kudos, and your loved one will really benefit from that. The adult daycare center, again, dementia specific, eliminates the no-show worry. So, if you were worried about someone coming to your home, not showing up, well, that's not going to happen at a daycare center because they have the people that are staffed there to provide the care. And it can also provide support for you as the family caregiver. There may be a support group on site that you could attend, and they always know about other community resources that are available to you in the community. So there's lots of different pros when it comes to adult daycare centers. But are there any cons? Well, yes, there are cons. First of all, in order for your loved one to go to an adult day center, you have to get them there. Well, how do I do this? You either put them in your car or you put them on a bus, and both can be frustrating and scary. What if your loved one that day wakes up, doesn't want to go? I'm not going. I want to stay here with you. You can't make me. Nope, you can't make them. And it is something that maybe was very important that you needed to do that day, and you really needed your loved one to go to the adult daycare center, and now they're refusing to go. And sometimes in the car driving with you, that can be scary too, especially if your loved one gets agitated and you have to worry about them maybe trying to open up the car door, maybe trying to take off their seatbelt, and that's going to distract you and that can cause an accident. So getting them there can be a con. The refusal to get ready, refusal to get in the car, we mentioned that, but what if the bus is late? A lot of times the caregivers say, well, I put them on the bus and they know to go directly to the day center. They know my loved one gets on and off. But one of the frustrating things that caregivers tell me is that the bus is not always consistent with the time they arrive and the time that they pick up, either coming or going. And so here you finally get your loved one, you're out on the corner, you're waiting on the sidewalk. It could be raining, it could be a really hot day. Anything could happen, and the bus that you're expected to come is late. And now you have an agitated caregiver and an agitated patient, and it's not a good situation. So this is very frustrating information that I get from caregivers. Also, you must adhere to the time restrictions, yours and the center's. So there's time restrictions. The center will open up at a certain time, they will close at a certain time, and you must pick your loved one up by that time. This can sometimes be a biggie. The availability of an open slot for the days and times that you need. Especially in season here in South Florida, the adult daycare centers can fill up very fast, and now you need help. You can't get in, or you can't get in the times and days that you need, and so you go on a wait list. So that can be a con. Right now, there's no care on most weekends or nights at adult daycare. I know of some that have started some Saturdays, but right now, no weekend and no night. However, I do predict that in the very near future, you will start seeing adult daycare centers providing respite or daycare, maybe night care, maybe weekend care. It's something that's needed, because if you have your loved one 5 days a week, and then what happens on the weekend? You're it. You have to provide all of that stimulation, all of that entertainment, and those activities. And it can be real hard for someone because it breaks the continuity, it breaks their routine. People with dementia need routine, they thrive on it. So there's now a break between the daycare centers on the weekend when they're home, and it really can be a problem. And I hope that pretty soon you'll see that we will have someone or someones coming up with the solution to that. I predict that will happen very soon. And also, lastly, for a con for adult day centers, most are closed on major holidays. So there's your pros and cons on adult daycare. We're going to move on to option number 4. This is memory care assisted living. Now, we talked about the stair levels of care, and we talked about regular assisted living. Okay, we're not talking about regular, we're talking about memory care. Okay, this is important to know. When you go to an assisted living and you're looking, make sure that you are visiting and touring the memory care portion. The memory care portion may not look the same as a regular assisted living within the same building. So you want to be sure that you're actually comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. The pros with a memory care community, they are available 24/7, including the weekends and the holidays. So you don't have that disconnect anymore. Your loved one is there all the time. There's more freedom for the family caregiver, more consistency, the security measures in place. So again, security at home is one thing, but you go to a memory care that's specific to dementia and Alzheimer's, they're going to have security systems in place. So you have a little bit more peace of mind there, knowing that. They have the trained professionals, how to deal with these challenging behaviors, all right? They're trained. They have the experience. They know what to do, and they actually are trained on how to communicate. And there are lots and lots of different choices, but this is, in general, the pros of memory care assisted living. Also, physician visits. Physicians can visit inside the assisted living, and so you don't have to take your loved one necessarily to a doctor's office for their appointment and sit and wait in a waiting room for a couple hours, which can be, as you probably know, very, very hard and challenging, keeping that person seated for a long period of time. Memory care assisted living can also be more valuable and affordable than care inside the home, and we'll talk more about that when we get into cost. There are structured activities and lots of socialization with their peers. Memory care assisted living bundles the cost of staying at home. So if you're looking at the pros with this, staying at home, you have to provide the meals, someone to do the housekeeping, you're still paying your utilities, you're still paying the maintenance, you're still paying condo fees or homeowners association fees, someone has to do the laundry. But by going into a memory care assisted living, everything is bundled. So pretty much all of that would be included, so you don't have to worry about someone to provide all of that information. And lastly, the pro for memory care is oversight by the Agency for Healthcare Administration, the Florida Ombudsman Program, and the Health Department. So you'll have a lot of backup checking to make sure things are right. So we're going to take our last commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're talking about care options for someone with dementia, and we're up to memory care assisted living, and we just heard the pros or all the good things that would benefit someone going into a memory care assisted living. But are there cons? Yes, there are a couple cons. I want to share this with you. Spouses experience temporary guilt. So this is something that spouses say, I just feel so bad about it. I feel guilty. I told my loved one I'd never put them in a nursing home. Well, the good news is a memory care assisted living is not a nursing home. So right there, you don't have to worry about that. But I think most importantly, you need to change your mindset. And what I mean by this is most of the time, because you have all the benefits, having your loved one go into a memory care assisted living, all the benefits that we just discussed, you have to look at it in a different way and think about it as not what you're doing to that person, but what you're doing for that person. I'm not doing it to him, I'm doing it for him. And that one little word, changing from 2 to 4, makes all the difference in the world. What else? Initial separation anxiety of both the resident and the family caregiver. This is something that families worry about or they stress over, is the transition period. What are they going to think? Are they going to be mad at me? Well, there is a transition period. And if you're in the right assisted living, they're going to help you with that transition period. They're going to know what to say and what to do to help your loved one transition and to help you transition, because it's both of you. You both have to learn a new way. You're both experiencing a new situation, and you're going to be very surprised sometimes of how the transition can be easier than you might imagine. So we try not to worry about things that haven't happened yet, and try to be positive and keep that positive aspect of it, because the transition period is a process. It may not happen immediately. Usually it takes about 30 days for someone to transition into a new environment. And so it is a process day by day by day. So it should get better every day. Memory care assisted living options are varied and not alike. Why is this a con? Because you must do your own investigation, your own shopping, so that you can experience it for yourself. It's very overwhelming sometimes. We talked about the 4 P's of placement, how to choose a memory care assisted living. So you want to go back to those 4 P's of placement that we talked about earlier this year. Or actually it was probably last year we talked about that. And those are going to help you know the questions to ask and the things to look for when you choose. But that's a con, because you really have to do your investigation. And there are limitations set by the state regarding the appropriateness of the resident. And that can be a con because of limitations, all right? So now we're going to go straight into the 5th option. The 5th option is skilled nursing facility, also known as a nursing home, for long-term care. Now, we're not talking about rehab here. A lot of people are familiar with nursing homes or rehab centers, which are also long-term care nursing homes, because maybe they went to the hospital, spent 3 days, are eligible to go into a nursing home / rehab to get physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy. That's short term. That we're not talking about that. We're talking about what we call custodial care. Custodial care is something that's not covered by Medicare. They're in there because that's the last stop before heaven. What are the pros of a nursing facility? Well, it provides 24/7 skilled care, including help or including assistance and including services of IV therapy, feeding tubes, major wound care. It's for bedbound patients. Those are the kinds of things you would expect to see in a long-term care skilled nursing facility or nursing home. What are the cons? Well, the ratio of staff to patients is probably not what you would want. A lot of times, you need to be the advocate in a skilled nursing facility. The levels are much higher as far as what people need, and it's a clinical hospital-like environment. So clearly, with one pro, one con, from my perspective, a nursing home would probably be the last place that you wanted to go unless you were forced to. And sometimes you're forced to. And we'll talk about that on another show. So how are these paid for? Mostly with long-term care insurance. Some are private pay, some Medicaid if you're qualified, some with VA benefits. And we have lots and lots of information to give you on this. But because we're about out of time, we're going to save the rest of this presentation for another week, because we still want to talk about what the options are to pay for, and then we want to get into the cost. Now, the costs are varied depending upon lots of factors. And so this part of the presentation, we'll be talking about it in a few weeks. And so I think today you have a lot of information. I have this information available. So if you didn't take some notes, let me know, email me, I'll get it to you. In the meantime, I want you to give someone a hug because they need it, and so do you. And join us next Tuesday for Caregiver Solutions Info. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those